Greetings gamers, Tim Kirk here, and today we're going to talk more about role-playing games. You may notice that I've had a venue change. My life has been turned upside down as of late, and that I'm also wearing these headphones. I bought a new video camera or webcam for my computer, so I didn't have to rely on the horrible one I got before or my Nexus. Unfortunately, its microphone is not quite powerful enough to pick up my voice in the short distance between the computer monitor and me, and I don't know why. It's gotten really good reviews, but for some reason it doesn't pick up my voice, so I'm going to be using the headphones in the meantime while I look for a good microphone to supplement the camera. Now, a while back I did a series on post-apocalyptic games, and in this case I wish to add a new game to that collection. Although it is not quite as much a post-apocalyptic game, excuse me, my tongue is tangled, but it is sort of one. It's a science fantasy role-playing game that does many of the fantasy tropes and the post-apocalyptic tropes, but it does them through a science fantasy high far future lens. And in this case, the game is Numenera. And as you may note, it's a fairly substantial rule book. It's 400 pages, and it has just absolutely gorgeous art and design in it. It also has a lovely full map that comes inserted in the back of the continent, the supercontinent that is the far future. It's that far in the future that what we recognize as Earth has merged continents and is no longer what we recall. It's quite interesting take on many of those elements. It's far future. You do have classes in the game for player characters. There's the Glaive, which is a warrior type, the Jack, which is a rogue type, and the Nano, which is a magic type. However, magic and the abilities of some of the characters is tied very strictly to the very high science fantasy aspect, in that Nano, of course, manipulates nanotechnology and maybe psychic powers. It's not so much just pure arcane ability. It's something else. It's science pretending to be magic. And I've always had a fondness for that kind of thing. In fact, one of the D&D worlds I ran for many years was very much that. It was a post-fall of high science setting, and what they knew as fantasy elements were really just high technology. But high technology so far in advance it looked like magic. Now, in addition to 3 classes, the game uses 3 attributes: might, speed, and intellect. They are spendable resources as well as affecting your outcomes. I mean, you can spend the resources to affect your outcomes, but they're also a target ability that impacts play. You roll a d20, and it's got familiar elements, even though it's got some nice innovations and simplicity to it. I do have a problem with the spendable resources that are attributes that are also health, because that's what the attributes take on a little bit too much under one penumbra. But it also has a problem with the fact that trying to get players to spend those resources that affect their life of their character is like pulling teeth sometimes, and that's not a good thing. I think another separate attribute or something that talked about their resources would have made a more interesting balance, perhaps. Or maybe having each attribute determine a pool of points that doesn't diminish the fixed attribute, since that's your health as well as your ability to perform a little bit. But that's mostly from my own playtest of games which have spendable resources that affect your character's lifespan, at least, assuming that you have a harsh GM who's really going to stick it to you, which I am not most of the time. Now, Numenera has a couple of other things that make it interesting. It has a character descriptor and character focus. And the descriptor is a simple one-word term, for the most part, that describes kind of how your character is perceived, kind of how a narrative, like if you were to put him in a book, he would be described as this: intelligent, charming, tough. The one-word descriptor that the character gets that describes kind of how they do things and what they're like. And that's really simple, but it allows you to distinguish between multiple people playing multiple members of the same class. In addition to that, every character has a focus, and the focus is kind of a mix of powers, not quite mutant powers, but powers and special abilities, and they can combine with pretty much any of the classes. So you could have, for example, the one that I always think of is Rides the Lightning, because it's just awesome. You control electricity, manipulate electricity, do things with electricity. And I like that because you can have a glaive with it, a jack with it, or a nano with it, and that's going to influence just how different those characters are. Especially if you have a group larger than 3, you're going to have some overlap of character classes. And the ability to add these slight changes with the descriptor and the significant changes with the focus makes it a lot more playable without hitting repetitious similarities between the characters and how they work. I mean, 2 fighters in a tabletop role-playing game may look alike until we got things like 3rd edition D&D, or you're playing a point-based system like GURPS, and they can have a whole lot of differences. But Numenera takes the class and adds these little branches on the outside of the class that lets them be different trees, pretty much. Numenera, though, is set in the far, far future, where magic is basically technology, vice versa. And there's a lot of weirdness in the world. There's floating cities, there's lakes where the water is invisible. There's just, it's a very, very high science as fantasy, fantastic elements. And it's a gorgeous book. It's wonderfully put together. I didn't kickstart it. Unfortunately, I didn't have the money when the Kickstarter was live, so I bought it after the fact in hardcover. I mean, it's a beautiful book. It's worth having. Now, are there good things and bad things in the book? Yes. As again, I said, the spending your health attribute, whatever, all for all these different things kind of puts too much pressure on that one limited resource. It might have been nice, since they have these branches that go on the either side of the character, to have another branch that could branch out that would cover that area. I also, and this is where we're going to get to a question. I like games that give me seeds of ideas. Here's a seed, take it and grow. Now, that is for play. For reading, I like games that give me a lot of details, a lot of structure, a lot of world to read and be entertained, because they give me ideas. So I'm caught at this point where I want seeds of ideas that I can build on and do my own thing with. At the same time, I enjoy details of a complete world that I can play in. So where do you stand? What do you like? Do you want just seeds of ideas that you can blossom into something fantastic? Do you want a firmly planted field that's already all grown and ready to be harvested? And I don't know why the plant metaphors are so strong today. They just are. But it's let me know what you think, because generally speaking, I like both and will enjoy both. This has a very substantial world book behind it. I mean, it's a 400-page book, and the rules do not take up that much page count. There are, things like artifacts and little technological, magical items you find, but there is a substantial world book, and there's even some multiple adventures in the back that you can make use of, which is nice. I mean, it's nice to pick up a role-playing game, tabletop role-playing game, that gives you virtually everything you need to play from the go. But at the same time, I like being able to build a few of those elements myself. So it's one of those. I like both, but maybe you only like one or the other. Let me know. Tell me what you think. It's a wonderful book. I recommend it. I mean, this is not I'm going to tell you exactly how the rules work kind of review thing. I'm just going to tell you whether I like a game or whether I don't like it, what I have problems with, and what I think is great about it. And it's great for the most part. Small problems here and there, but nothing big, nothing that you can't overcome just by playing the game and accepting its conceits. So pick it up if you're interested. If not, or let me know what you think in the video. I'm going to go for now. Hopefully my other videos will be a bit longer and we'll cover some more material, but I have shot this video 4 times. I've even uploaded it once, but the volume just cut out too much, and so hopefully this one is going to be loud enough that you can hear me. Thank you for dealing with me and my technological problems and life problems and gaming. We'll be back for more next time.